Superintendent of Police, Medak District, Telangana. A huge round of applause for Chandana Deepti. This would be on her novel approach, her career, passion and lifelong learning. And to do the honors, we have a brand strategist in the education sector. He's also mentor to many startups and he dons many roles. So to do the honors, we would be calling upon Mr. Sudhagar Rao, Director, ICFI Group of So with this, Mr. Sudhagar, over to you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
I hope you're comfortable.
Yes, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to you, and I'm very sure you've had a sumptuous lunch. And soon after lunch, we are supposed to have some interesting sessions. That's what happens in all educational institutions. If you don't have interesting sessions, they'll fall asleep, and therefore you'll have to have a special period called sleeping period. That used to happen during my childhood. Does it happen even now also? Unofficially it must be happening, but officially right now here nothing should happen. We will make sure that you don't fall asleep. Okay? Very good. So this conversation, this fireside chat is going to be interesting with Srimati Chandana Deepti with us. She is a very bright young police officer and this state is extremely proud of Chandana Deepti Garu. The power of influence is not something everybody can have. I think those who have power of influence, either because of their power or because of their knowledge or because of a combination of what is called influence, are those people who we have to protect and look up to. And that is the responsibility of the society. And therefore, from that point of view, today we are going to talk about the innovative approaches with respect to career, with respect to lifelong learning and passion that is involved in making these two happen. So ladies and gentlemen, please keep your mobiles in silent mode, and if you have any questions, we are not going to ask you to ask questions. I'll see if that is possible if we have time. But if you have any questions, keep those questions with you. We will see if we have exhausted all. I request all of you to pay attention and we will have, ma'am, if you permit me, we will start.
Sure.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible to me. Is ma'am audible to all of you?
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Well, ma'am, career building does not happen by any accident. It doesn't happen at any point in time exactly. You can't pinpoint that, you planned your career at that point in time. Before that career actually blossoms, there is a lot of what is called scholastic run-up, academic milestones before you reach that. So in your case, you have actually gone to IIT Delhi and studied computer science over there. That itself is a major milestone. So did it begin pretty late or did it begin pretty early for you? Can you narrate us and give an overview of how your career evolved, maybe from schooling till your IIT?
Okay. Firstly, thank you. I'm humbled by this opportunity given to me to address such such honorable audience. To speak of my achievements, I would regard getting into IIT and studying computer science and engineering was one of the biggest milestones in my life. And I did my schooling in CBSE schools from the beginning, and when I got into IIT, it was not through some coaching classes, but I had done self-study and relied on postal coaching. So my parents were extremely surprised and happy, and all my college, as in the intermediate school, school teachers, principal, correspondent, they all came home to congratulate me. It really brought a spark in the eyes of my parents, and I think they started my journey. And once I was in IIT, IITs are institutions which are autonomous, not just by themselves, but they try to make the individuals autonomous in their thinking, and they inculcate creative thinking. Creative and critical thinking. So by this, what happens is an individual learns how to learn. That is the essence of what an IITian becomes, what the product he becomes once he or she comes out of the college. And I want to emphasize that concept all through this chat also. What I want to convey is this concept of meta learning, which is the thing we need to imbibe these days. If you allow me to speak, or are you in a rush to go to the next question?
I'm not in any rush.
Okay. So what I want to tell you, okay, I'll try to explain it, trying to be as laymanish as possible. We are in a post-modern era. I mean to say that things are changing at a very, very fast pace. If we are trying to learn how to navigate through the system in the prevailing circumstances, by the time we learn, the circumstances, the environment, everything is going to change. So we have to relearn completely again. I mean, our learning methods, the learning of the system entirely has to restart. So in such a scenario, what happens? You have to take high risks. High risks are the most rewarded usually. But then when you're taking high risks, your rate of learning, if you plot a curve, rate of learning curve, that has to be uphill. It has to go up. Only then you're bound to succeed at the end of the day. So I would like to re-quote, let's say, a phrase that was quoted by somebody really knowledgeable. In today's world, the only sustainable competitive advantage a person or an organization has is the rate at which it learns. The rate of learning it has adopted. I hope I'm able to convey. But again, so let us come back to this post-modern era I'm talking about. So when you are to navigate the systems which are constantly changing, what you need to learn is how to learn. That's what we need to teach our children, teach our students, teach aspirants of different professions, and teach every career-oriented person. What is to be learnt is learning to learn. That's called meta-learning. So,
fantastic. Thank you very much. Learn to learn, and that's what the institutions are supposed to inculcate among the children
yes, right
and
from
the students.
Start.
Right from the start.
Yes.
Fantastic. Ma'am, going from here in your own career, we have understood that going into IITs is not easy at all. We are not glorifying that IITs are the only ones or the IIMs are the only institutes that one should pursue. But nevertheless, there is a great deal of effort, commitment, and continued passion to pursue that program. So that is the line that we are picking up in anyone's journey, including yours. So if we have to go a step forward, when did this bug of getting into civil services happen, and is it sudden, or please explain to us where it began?
When I was in my final year in college, that was when we had to pick a topic for our thesis, final thesis, and for that you have to narrow down your vision to a one really specific area and study in that, and then thereafter there is an opportunity to go to the best school possible and pursue a master's in that, and later on specialize. That was the path being taken by all my um, uh, classmates in those days. But then I realized I'm a person who requires a wide-ranging stimulus to keep me happy, and to have a broad perspective of the society, which I wanted at that point in time. I thought I should touch upon people's lives directly and not so indirectly by being a contributor in the field of science and technology or in research and development. So if I had not been an IPS officer, I would have been in the field of research and development. But since I've chosen this path pretty consciously, I'm here and I believe it's for the good.
Great. So you chose to create some impact on society, and therefore that has driven you towards this. So we hear about that Warangal acid attack. Can you explain that and link it up to certain career decisions that you have taken based on that?
Yes, actually those were the times when I was thinking of preparing for civil services, and then I heard about this acid attack that happened on two really helpless girls. They had nothing to do, I mean, they were not really in some sort of a tiff with the party. But one of them succumbed to injuries, the other one was grievously injured. So let me just open up. I want to be a little informal.
Yes,
here.
be informal, please.
Okay. So
We are scared, madam, that you're carrying a gun.
thank you.
If you're not, we are also relaxed.
All right. So in those days, what happens? Okay, in Hyderabad, at least, you know, girls when they are going out. Well, these days I don't know what is the situation in colleges and all, but when you're preparing for civils or when you're going around in the sense when you're walking on the street, girls are like, okay, they bend down their head and they're not looking up because they're afraid if they look up, somebody might take it as a cue of interest and try to stalk them. This used to be the scenario. Even now also that is a scenario in most public places, but thanks to SHE teams and the efforts of government of Telangana along with the police department, that menace has come down. But yeah, so when you have a stalker, when a girl is going to college, going to a study center, when she has most girls have stalkers. It doesn't have to do it doesn't have to do anything with any of the parameters. You know how the girl looks or how affluent the girl is or what is her background. Nothing. Most girls, believe me, 99% of the girls have stalkers. So. Well, I also used to have stalkers as in who are following me. I know that, but if I tell at home, my parents are going to restrict my movement. So I used to suffer in silence. But then when this acid attack happened, it was like, oh my God, what if the stalker is like really pursuing and then tries to put acid on me? Every girl had this fear, and then stepping out has become a major challenge. It's like a silent suffering that every female was facing. And then the next day in the papers, fortunately, we had those 3 people gone, and it was a euphoria, I should say, in the minds of all young females who are pursuing their careers, their education, because, you know, they felt justice has been delivered. And after that, yes, okay, if somebody, you know, there is a sense of deterrence, and because of that deterrence, okay, there is some kind of a confidence, again renewed confidence in girls, and also the parents. Parents are main stakeholders here. They want to educate their child. You know, when you have a daughter and a son at home, do you give them equal opportunities to stay out, to do their own thing, to stay out at their friend's place for a study session during late hours? No, you don't, because of all these factors. A girl child is viewed as a responsibility more than an asset. So a responsibility in the sense, she's not a liability, but you are perceiving her as a liability because of the sense of security that prevails in the society. So that's what I believe I can change. Incidentally, this was a question in my interview also. In my UPSC interview, I was asked this question, and I told them it makes me really proud if I can get into the services and then create a scenario where girls are proudly lifting their head and walking. They don't have to bend down, like, you know, they don't have to be shy of anything. They can just be themselves. So
great. So that's how you got into the civil services, and then later you tried to handle several problems. One of them, notably, that we read in media is curbing child labor. So curbing child labor is not that easy. I mean, it's something that we wrote essays about in the school, but on the ground, I think you people are handling it very well. Now, what are the challenges out there? How was the response of parents and businessmen when you initiated some steps to curb child labor in your district?
Child labor problem has an ecosystem of its own, and law enforcement or legal solution is only a part of it. It is a socio-economic problem, and there are multiple stakeholders. So sustained efforts by all these stakeholders will only resolve this problem, and we have actually, I'm proud to say, come a long way, and we believe we are going in the right direction. Yet there is so much to be done, and I have received mixed responses from various stakeholders. Yes.
Mixed responses?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's not an easy issue, and we need to pursue that quite.
Actually, what happens is you pull out a child from labor scenario and put the child in a school or something. The bigger challenge lies in not in preventing the child from going back and doing the same thing or a similar thing out of school. So it is a multi-pronged approach, as well as something that needs to be followed up to a later stage where the child is stabilized. So multiple stakeholders are involved.
Right, right. Fantastic. We've also heard about your Learn a New Skill Everyday challenge that you have asked your fellow officers and many other citizens also to actually pursue. And that's a great thing. I mean, it sounded to me very, very nice. How do you learn a new skill every single day? You can probably account how you have done it and give us a few tips how we should be able to do that. And this is falling in line with the theme that lifelong learning. And I'm sure your tips are going to be very useful to us.
There were some criticisms also regarding what has happened. Actually, I posted a Twitter post motivating my force. I command about 1,000 police officers in my district in their policing efforts. So I asked them to learn a new skill each day. So the criticism was about how can somebody learn a new skill each day? Isn't it too ambitious? But then let me tell you, the skill I was talking about can be as small as learning to use, let's say, a Google Pay app or a Paytm app, or learning to use how to maneuver a drone camera, or learning to file a writ petition in the court. I mean, anything. It can be as simple as a small task. It is a skill. We need to understand today, especially since the pandemic times have taken over the economies in the world, that it is best if you are good at DIY, do it yourself. So any sort of a skill, you're upping your skill set by one each day, you're going to be so self-sufficient, so much quicker than the rest of the society, and that will add to your competitive advantage. So in that way, I believe there was a very good response from my force and also from outsiders. My force, they've started posting as in things like, okay, they took some nice pictures. They've learned to take, it's as simple as, they've learned to take a picture in a very unique way. They have posted that and they said, okay, this is what we learned today. It made me happy. So I tried to take this forward. And I believe it is a good exercise. It has really helped our force. Our force, the police force that we have, they should be more professional, more friendly, and they should be delivering what is intended to be delivered as
Great.
As police.
Great. I'm very happy to know that it has seen a lot of success and people are still doing it. So the question, ma'am, is what is the new skill that you have learned today?
Okay.
Okay, next question.
I'll tell you at the end of the session, perhaps.
It was so intriguing and so interesting for me to read about the case that you handled with respect to fake ID cards. Fake ID cards is a big thing actually, and it can alter several prospects, not just in terms of money, in terms of security, in terms of various other arrangements that one would have made for self. So that's a very big achievement according to me. Just give us a lowdown on how it has happened, very briefly, fake ID cards case.
Actually, I was a trainee IPS officer doing my SHO duty on that night, and there was one lorry which was stopped by one fake IAS officer. he was stopping the lorry and he was beating up the lorry driver saying there is black money in your lorry and all that. So I was intrigued and went and questioned that guy. He was so drunk and so unkept. So I had my doubts. Is this an IAS officer? So I asked him to show his card. So he showed me a card saying Anti-Corruption Bureau and some other these things and all. Since I'm an IPS officer, I have that advantage. I know what are all the security agencies in the country and abroad. So, I mean, there was some tweaking of this, there was a tweaking of the spelling in that Anti-Corruption Bureau, whatever. Now, what happens is these people, they make such cards. There is an industry which is making such cards at the toll gate or at some other sensitive places or at the gateways of security. They just, the security, the manning people there, they just think it's genuine and they let them pass. It is a major security breach issue as well. So then what happened, I called up that person, the number written in a very small letter, very small letters, and then thereon a lot of things followed up, and actually that fake agency, there was a mole in the card printing agency. That guy actually cooperated with us, and we realized after thoroughly investigating, after raiding their place and all, it is a big scandal, as in those cards are being manufactured with government-like looking names. But one strange thing is they're all registered in the registered office as societies, or they're legal. That's how he's able to do all this. They're legal. But then they're deceiving. How they're deceiving? You're not supposed to use a government symbol or a government authority's name or signature on a private card, on a private society's card. So this knowledge is not there in the public perhaps, but these guys are freely using them. Even nowadays, if you come across any such, please inform your local police station and they will take action. So these cards are being manufactured, and he would sell a bunch of cards for 3,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees to interested parties, 7,000, 10 also. So that was the thing. Actually, I'm proud to say that I was able to arrest the kingpin and remand him.
Great, and that is a fantastic achievement. Big round of applause to Madam.
Thank you.
Madam, one associated question, and then we'll move to the next, is that what was the impact of this scam? Because there could be many other people also, but at least with this organization or with these few people, what was the monetary impact that was estimated in the scam which you unearthed, roughly?
Actually, I was not posted at that place for long because I had to go for a mandatory training. So I couldn't go into the depths of the investigation, but to the extent possible, I have identified all the accused who are printing these cards in a large scale, who are distributing. Their distributors, they had distributors, head distributors in each state. And they had next level distributors and next level distributors. So it's a huge scandal. Everything was documented and which was raided and seized by us. So,
Great, yeah. Great. Thank you. But that's...
Monetary, yes, monetary smuggling can happen. A lot of things can happen when you have a card that looks exactly like a credible agency's card. Yes.
Yeah, it could have caused severe damage.
Yes.
Yeah, one had to sit down and estimate that probably. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. But then, ma'am, I was going back to that spelling mistake which gave way to all these things.
Okay. That what?
In the ID card, that spelling mistake which he made.
Yes.
The doubt
It's not
started.
a spelling mistake. It's a deliberate tampering with the spelling so that it gets registered as a society.
Okay, okay.
So when you make one letter change, no, it looks
Yes.
exactly like the government agency, but it is different. So the society, the registrar cannot refuse you to register
Sure.
as a society. But they have to check, what these people
They
are
have to
doing,
check.
are they misusing and all, those things need to be done. So that's true.
Great. Fantastic, ma'am. You studied computer science at IIT Delhi and now you are in police. You are head of police at Medak. What are the ways in which we can use technology for policing? Many police officers we have seen across the country using social media to actually create that access in terms of complaints, in terms of being available, in terms of reporting their problems so that there is a quick redressal. But especially emerging technologies like AI can be used in predicting crimes. And also preventing crimes. So is that done or is it being done, and what do you see in this emerging area?
Okay. At the moment, first I'll address the question regarding social media. So social media has two things, two attributes. One, it can be, information can be disseminated to the targeted audience the quickest way, quickest than any other channel present. Another thing, instantaneously you can reach out to a big audience. So because of these two advantages, social media has become essential in governance. It has its downsides, but because it's become essential, I personally have incorporated management of social media in my work schedule. So that's how we are dealing with it. And when I have to answer your question about...
How do you use emerging technology in predicting crimes?
Yes. So majorly right now, what we are doing is we are working on building a criminal database, criminal analytic database, which we are going to use in the future. Even now it is being tried and tested with artificial intelligence to look at patterns, to predict crime and prevent crime in time. So these are the things we are doing, and location sensitive information technology is being extensively used in speedy investigation and conclusion, and also detection and pursuing of criminals. Yes.
So it is being done as of now?
Yes, it is being tried and tested. At the moment, the database is building up very fast. The criminal database, very soon, in Telangana as well as in the country, we do have a system of collecting inputs from the ground level, from the field level, as to who are these criminals lurking in whichever the remotest corner of the society, and doing whatever MO. They keep changing their MOs, locations and all that. Everything gets into this database, which can be collectively accessed, updated and suitably retrieved from when selective information is required.
Okay. I have myself experienced one, not from doing any crime, but there was one problem. So traffic cops helped me, and this guy was supposed to be actually nabbed and taken into police station. So they just clicked his photo and checked his antecedents on the road.
Yes.
Through their iPad.
Yes.
iPad kind of tablet.
Yes.
So that was very interesting for me. I was quite impressed. They checked the facial recognition then and there, and the antecedents over there, and they caught him. He was in various other offences also involved.
Yes.
That was very, very nice to
This
know.
is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This is the end product you get when you're creating this database of criminals and their networks.
This database is shared across the country, ma'am?
Yes, to all the law enforcement agencies.
Wow, great. So one other interesting question when we move from here is, how do you handle your social media? Handling social media takes a lot of energy and time and interest, and you have to do it in style actually. You have to do it carefully. You can't
Yes.
make mistakes.
Yes.
Do you do it yourself, or do you employ any agency to do it for you? How do you handle in spite of your busy schedule?
I mean, it takes quite a bit of your energies and time. So as I told before, I incorporated the social media management aspect in my work schedule itself. So I give it a little bit of attention. But then when there is a lot of trolling or negative comments or some criticism, I ask my team to look at it and then brief me so that I can react. Because I wouldn't have time to look at all the comments or all the issues that are
But posting you
at.
will do yourself? You will write actually?
Certain platforms I do, yes. Twitter I do.
You are extremely popular, and I follow you on LinkedIn, and you are extremely popular. In fact, some of the best people who are who are frequently visiting social media are put to shame. They cannot actually match with your kind of frequency.
Thank you very much. I hope it is put to good use.
It is put to good use, obviously good use, and I'm wondering how you have actually managed to do it. That's something great.
The basic stuff I do take care, because sometimes anybody, however expert the person can be, they can goof up. And then especially platforms like Twitter, comments are made and it can't be deleted, I believe. There are some constraints. So those things I'm a little hesitant in posting actively, but other platforms, yes, my team is there to look at. If there are any issues, they would bring them to my notice.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. So now we have seen all of you would have seen this movie Jai Bhim on OTT platforms, which is released recently, probably last month. And this movie has made a great impact, and several people have been talking about it in terms of the inclusive justice that is being that's lacking, the police custodial torture, and denial based on caste, religion, so on and so forth. Article 15. Well, Article 15 itself is a movie.
Yes.
So how, as head of police in your district, ma'am, you are ensuring that these things do not happen? I'm sure there are caste lines drawn everywhere in the society, every district, including yours. But how do you make sure that your department does not fall for some of these things that are displayed in that movie, Jai Bhim?
Okay, before answering the question directly, let me tell you that police are people from the society itself. We only give exams and become police officers and wear uniform. So these discrimination and these perceptions about certain marginalized sections, they carried from the public into police. So blaming police is not, it won't solve the purpose. It is a systemic problem. And when it comes to my district, believe me, I only reward professional policing. If there is any deviance from professional policing, things are taken into account and matters are immediately rectified. So this is done on a sustained basis.
Yeah. Great.
Yes.
Thank you very much. See, that sensitization has to happen, and therefore it is
Yes.
important that society talks about it, and therefore very few people, even if one person is denied justice, we have to talk about it. So from that point of view, I
I'll sum
asked.
it up and tell you, the thing is, if I have made the weak and vulnerable feel more confident and empowered, I feel my job is done. So that is how I perceive my job, and I believe it percolates. This sense of duty percolates through the rank and file.
Through the rank and file, this sense of duty percolates. That's an
Yes.
amazing statement. Thank you very much, ma'am. I think once the head of the police is sensitive about it and conscious about it, the rest of the things, these are leadership issues, whether it is an organization in private or public or a police department. So it starts with the leader and ends with the leader, so to say. That's what we learn and teach students. So fantastic. Thank you very much, ma'am. There's a question from Delhi that has come up, and the person requested me to ask you is that what is the prospect of having cycle squad police, like the way you have equestrian police? If you have cycle squad police, you can ask them to go around in small lanes and streets and colonies, and their visible presence is felt, and it could serve as a deterrent. Usually they use bikes, they use cars, and
Yes.
all those things. But today, in an era of net zero equations, in an era of conscious climate control, also additionally with respect to policing, is this possible in India? Is it possible in your district? I'm sure in India some people have tried in Delhi, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and of course in other countries also it's tried. NYPD has tried. So what's your take on this?
Yes, it is one way of having visible
Dr.
policing
C.
goal fulfilled. But then I would say it would make more sense if this sort of visibility on cycles is made available in urban areas, because in rural areas traveling so far, actually we have response time, the concept of response time. Somebody makes a distress call, we need to go there within 5 minutes. So that won't be possible if we allot duties to police on cycling. So the goals that these people would achieve would be to make police presence felt and to have that personal touch, talk to people on their way and make themselves feel more approachable to people. So it is a novel approach which is being followed at different places, and it can be incorporated. There's nothing wrong in it, and most importantly, it is environment friendly, which makes it all the more attractive.
Fantastic. My friend who asked me to ask you this question is a cyclist himself in Delhi.
Okay.
On the streets, he does it, and he connects with various governments, both in AP, Telangana, as well as Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, so that the private people come forward and help them design some of the systems for this and ensure that some cycles are actually given. These are specially designed cycles for policing.
Right.
So that was the interest behind raising this question.
Yes, it is a good idea.
It's a good
True.
idea. So, ma'am, we have just last 3 questions, and we're going to wind up before Sudhir Gautam makes his presence felt, like those visible presence police officers that we are talking about. Um, so, so yeah, it's menacing if people are so close by.
I think
If you were to write a book on your experiences, on yourself as well as on your department, what would you name it?
it is too early to decide on that because I
Oh,
believe
yes.
there are miles to go.
Yes, you are in the first decade of your service, if I understand correctly,
Yes.
and then at least 2 more decades or a little more than that is pending. But
Yes.
then you should write a book, ma'am, based on your experiences, and we will
Thank you.
publish it. ICFI would publish it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
What is the one book that you would recommend to college grads to learn from and inspire from?
If I recommend one book, that would be doing no justice to many good books. But I would say where I drew my personal inspiration very strangely came from, this book called The Alchemist.
Alchemist?
Yes, by Paulo Coelho. He's a Brazilian lyricist and novelist. So this book actually helped me understand what is the zeal of life and how to go about it. The protagonist in this book, he's actually on a treasure hunt, and learning is a journey, and that's what he does, and that really inspires me to this day. I always am very enthusiastic in taking on something new and traveling farther and farther in my endeavors,
Fantastic.
geographically and also
Going places.
scholastically. Yes.
Going places literally and figuratively.
Yes.
Yeah. So ma'am, what is your message to those IPS aspirants?
Okay. I want to say that it is a huge responsibility. It is a position of power that you're going to tomorrow land up in, and then don't lose sight of that while you're preparing for the exam. It is a little tumultuous because it's a highly competitive examination, but then look at the goal. You're in a position to make a change in common man's life, and for that small change that you make, he'll remember you for not remembering you or your glorification, but per se, but then it is a life altering act that you can deliver in very little time. So many such acts make up one officer at the top level. So I think it's a very noble profession. It's a very challenging, interesting. You deal with extraordinary type of personalities, extraordinary range of personalities, and you deal with all strata of the society. It is extremely interesting. So I would say it is a job to die for, and young IPS aspirants, do not lose sight of the goal.
Great. Young IPS aspirants should not lose sight of this, and it is a job to die for. A big round of applause for that. And this one. Can I have the camera zoomed into this particular aspect? If you can zoom in, my friend. You will see here the Honorable Chief Minister KCR talking to a young girl and showing it the officer who is sitting next to me here. You should become like her. Ee officer laga kavali.
Thank you.
I mean, this is all. I mean, as I said, the power of influence and whatever you described just now, we have seen that happening actually on the ground. So thank you very much, ma'am, for inspiring in such a short span of time. You are still in the first decade of your service. And there is one more social post that you have made. The greatest weapon is not a gun or a bomb. It is the control of information. To control the world's information is to manipulate all the minds that consume it. This is the social media post.
Yes.
Can you please briefly explain this?
I think it is self-explanatory, but then what I am trying to say is information and information technology, how you are using them will determine the economies of tomorrow. So if you are influencing economies, minds, countries, it is only through information but not through weapons. Weapons are outdated. Information is your new weapon.
So,
Fantastic. Thank you very
Information,
much.
how it is consumed. So
Yeah,
that is more
thank you very
important.
much.
Yeah.
On this note, we would like to wrap it up, ma'am. I think you've been quite patient in responding to some of these questions. But time is always a limit
Yes.
for us, and we need to comply with that.
We did exceed.
We did exceed, and only because you are there here, they allowed me to ask a few questions.
Right.
They are scared of police. I know they should be.
So we would love to have the conversation going, but in the interest of time and paucity and
Correct.
respecting others' time as well, we would not like to end it here, but we will have to end it. As far as menacing is concerned, Mr. Sudhakar,
Yes, yes.
it's the last thing associated with Sudhir Gautam. At the cost of
No,
being menacing,
Sudhir
I
is a-
still will
Sudhir is a
hover
great
around.
person.
So a huge round of applause to Mr. Sudhakar for wonderfully moderating and bringing out the aspects that we did not know about the inspiring personality, Mrs. Chandana Deepti. A round of applause for our guests.
Thank you.
With this, I would request a special guest, the chairman for Telangana State Council of Higher Education, Mr. Limbadri, to please join us and do the honors by presenting the speaker memento to our esteemed speakers here. And a sapling to our special guest. Also to our wonderful moderator, Mr. Sudhakar Rao. He knows the skill to take and rob the time. Mr. Sudhakar, a round of applause. Yeah.